We asked all you guys to send us in your comic book grail. The issue you've been searching for your whole comic book collecting life, or one that you have obtained, but whatever it is the one you have been searching for, or two. We got some of those as well. So let's get to it. We got some great entries here, and they're it's a good variety, wouldn't you say, Chris?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It shows how collecting is so unique to the individual collector. I love it.
Absolutely, yeah. And so let's just get into it with Mr. Gretzky, 9966. Boy Commandos number 15. It's the first appearance of the. He tells us it's the first appearance of the Crazy Quilt Boy Commandos. Came out in 1946 by Jack Kirby. One of my top 15 Golden Age Grail books. He wants to find it. I have to admit, Chris, I am not too familiar with this issue. A 1946 Kirby though is an absolute gem. Anything Kirby does is an absolute gem. And you know, even his most recent issues are ones you'd want in your collection. This one seems to be obscure, and hey, Mr. Gretzky, I really hope you get it. How do you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not too familiar with myself, but you know, it's interesting because I don't own many. I don't own any Marvel. Well, technically, it wouldn't be Marvel, but I don't own any Timely Golden Age. I own one or two DC Golden Ages, but the handful of Golden Ages I have are kind of obscure. You know, I got a Pig and some Harvey Dagwood, of course. Nothing extremely valuable, such as some Golden Age Jack Kirby, but I'm all for it. You know, we obviously up in the superhero genre, but you know, we tend to overlook that the Golden Age was full of so many more genres that sometimes go overlooked.
Yeah, 100%. It's amazing because of what the era we're living in today, where it's just bombarded with mainstream pop culture, Spider-Man, MCU, DCEU, those kinds of things that are in the face of not many collectors. You kind of forget about what's come in the past, and that's something that you need to hold on to, because a guy like Kirby doing these kinds of the art just it speaks for himself. He's an absolute legend, and this is kind of where they started back then in that Golden Age era, and even before. So with that said, let's move on to our next book, which is from Comic Book STL. I would assume that would mean Comic Book St. Louis. He sent us in Avengers 57. This is the first appearance of Vision. He says to us, "This is my Holy Grail comic. I'll get one someday." We absolutely hope you do, because that is a key book right there from an iconic Avenger.
Absolutely. I love what the MCU did with Paul Bettany's Vision as well. This is a character that I hope to see more of, not only just on the screen, but in more modern comics. You know, there's a lot of depth there and a lot of things that they can do. I was at an individual's home last year. I brought my son because this guy was selling off his whole collection. And when I walked into the room, you know, there was boxes everywhere, and he had one laying on the table there for a decent grade for like $320, which is an amazing price. But unfortunately, I had nothing near that in my pocket. I told my son to go dig through the dollar box and pull a few of those out. So, but it was awesome to see still.
Well, hopefully he got something from that, some gems in there when he was digging through those long boxes. But unfortunately, you guys didn't take home that. Avengers 57. Moving on, though, we got T-Mao. T-Mao sent us one that, if you're a comic book collector, you're going to want this issue. It's Detective Comics number 27. He tells us that I'm going with Detective Comics 27, a book I've been wanting since I saw the first Tim Burton Batman. Batman and Spider-Man are my two favorite comic book characters. I got my Amazing Fantasy 15 last year, so this book will be next. I'm pretty sure I'll never own it unless I hit the lotto or find a copy at a yard sale or something. Batman is just a man in a suit with no real superpowers, so we can relate to him. Yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for. First of all, kudos on that Amazing Fantasy 15. That's That's one in many lists of grails. But yeah, it's a challenge to find a Detective Comics 27 out there. Like they're not laying around on on the on a sidewalk or even any comic book shop you go into. A majority of them do not have this hanging in their shop. It is a highly sought after issue, a highly rare issue, especially in a good grade. So we absolutely wish you the best. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, and I'm still waiting for my day to find an estate sale or a garage sale where somebody's just basically throwing their stuff away. I hear so many stories. So I think we all can hope to be so lucky one day. Or like you said, win the lottery and just, kind of go careless on our hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a joy. All right. Moving on to another kind of pretty much a rare issue, not as rare as Detective 27, but we have No Town Comics with Showcase number 4. He tells us with a close because he wants Detective Comics 27 as well, but a close second is Showcase number 4, which is much more of a possibility. I got this picture from eBay, and it's not an item I'm currently watching. I'm getting married this year, so I'm gonna have to wait to get one of these bad boys. Yeah, I think that's a good move. No Town Comics. I'm not sure how much she's into your collection or your hobby, but as great as that would be to have, let's make a happy wife equal happy life. On that note, but this is a classic issue. It's the first appearance of the Silver Age Flash, and it's definitely one that most collectors want in their collection as well, right, Chris?
Why not? Why not? I've actually a good viewer, Isaac, has been harassing me to show off my Flash collection. He must think I have one of those in there. So I'm like, I don't have much Flash, but it's interesting because I remember as a kid, I was growing up watching the Flash show, the '90s Flash show, and everything. And Barry Allen and the Flash was a character that actually appealed to me, but I just never got into buying his comics. So going after this issue for me hasn't been top on the list, but obviously it's one that's to be sought after, and Flash is a really awesome character that has a lot of fan base. Obviously, I was just joking about saying Isaac's been harassing me, but I just say that because it's like, you got people demanding this character and they want to see it. So this is a book that's going to continue to be sought after, and I hope that Grail is attained.
Absolutely, but get married first. Make sure that wedding is paid for.
Right.
Next on our list is from 40 Years of Comics. I like this because this shows variety in our viewership here. So he has Strange Adventures number 180, which is the first appearance of Animal Man, which is on your left. And then My Greatest Adventure number 80, First Doom Patrol. So he owns both of these now. He said he got one of those about 20 years ago and the other about 20 days ago. He did not clarify which one was which, but these are interesting books. They're a lot of mainstream people are probably not familiar with Animal Man, more so Doom Patrol now that the DC Universe has that series. But I love seeing this because this shows who you are as a collector. A lot of people, it's easy for them to say they want Amazing Fantasy 15. Me, that's on my list. But it's just I love these kind of more obscure books. I would say again, Animal Man and Doom Patrol are not up there with the other kind of DCU IPs.
Right, absolutely. And again, yeah, to your point, everyone is not after the same thing. Everyone doesn't collect for the same reasons, and it's not always about value. You think of going for the key Silver Ages, the Fantastic Four, Hulk number 1s, Amazing Fantasy 15, X-Men number 1, or even going back, Detective Comics 20, Superman number 1, Action Comics number 1. I mean, those are like the cream of the crop, right? But those are attainable to someone or not, or they may think they're attainable at some point down the road. Some people aren't even thinking about those because it's just not what they're interested in. It's always about what makes you happy, what you enjoy, and that price tag can range. It could be a a $20 to $100 book, or it could be a $500,000 book. But if it means something to you, for you to get your hands on it, that's what matters.
Yep. It's all, I get it. It's not how much this is worth, it's how much are you willing to pay for it. And that's how the market dictates these books and the values, and et cetera, et cetera. We all know that. All right. And our last entry from My Comic Grail CBC comes from M. Lazik. He has a copy of Incredible Hulk 181. Again, another one we all wish we would have. This is just iconic, especially how in the past 20 years, how popular Wolverine has become with the X-Men films, how even more popular he will become when he enters the MCU. So this is a great one to have because it's only going to grow in value. M. Lazik was telling us, I finally got my Comic Grail CBC last week. He got it last week. He struggled to find one in his price range. It's faded but complete, and most important, all of mine. Massive day for me. Never thought I'd be able to find a copy in my price range, but here she is. Logan has been my favorite character since I was a kid. Feels amazing to finally own this book. Well, we'd like to give you a big congratulations. That's not easy to find in your price range. It's an absolute classic book. Again, one of those that I know I would want. I don't know. I mean, do you have one, Chris?
I don't. That's another one that you just, you look back at your decades of collecting and you wish, right? But yeah, and I'm with you. As soon as Daniel Radcliffe takes over that role, man, and does that for the next 20 years, this book is going to be even more special now. But no, but for real, like when we look at Bronze Age books and in the Bronze Age keys, this is one of those books that is almost an era-less, meaning it's going to compete with those Silver Age iconic books because Wolverine is such an iconic character, and I don't see this book slowing down. I think this book is going to continue to add thousands to its value, even in lower mid grades. So honestly, people that don't have it right now, a lot of people aren't going to be able to attain it in the next few years, I think.
Would you say this? Would you say if you find a deal that you're on the fence about that you can afford right now, but you don't know if you want to pull the trigger, maybe you can find a better deal, would you say it would be in your best interest to pull the trigger and get that book?
Absolutely. If you have the money, if you have a budget, if you're a collector and you have a budget, and this isn't even streamlined to just Wolverine fans, because I always talk about we collect what we're passionate about. There's different ways of collecting. But if you are a collector that cares at least a little bit about key books or about return on investment or having these key books that are going to gain value, I absolutely agree with doing exactly what you just said, Jeff. That's where first you got to know your budget, though. I'm not in that boat at all. I know for a fact that even like probably a 0.5 of this book, I don't have the money for it just because I don't have the money for it. But if you have a certain set amount of money set aside, and maybe you're not even looking at this book, maybe you have a certain amount of money that can go to a few different decent keys, but you see an opportunity to grab this book, I would definitely recommend doing it if that money is there on that table, because you're not going to lose out. At the end of the day, if you don't want to hold on to that book, this is a book that you will be able to flip and get a return on investment for in the future. Absolutely, no question.
Flip and ROI are the key words here, no doubt about that, especially with what's coming to the MCU. All right, so that's all for our audience entries. We really appreciate you guys sending these in. Keep them coming. See my Comic Grail CBC, keep them coming. But we like to share with you guys our Grails. We'll start with Chris here. Chris, what do you got?
Well, being a big Spider-Man fan, I had to go with a Spider-Man book. Hulk 181 is up there for me too. Like I said, getting unreachable almost. But this is another book that's kind of in that same category. Iconic cover, iconic artist, iconic first appearance, and that's Amazing Spider-Man 129, first appearance of the Punisher, Gil Kane art. Classic cover. This is one of my favorite covers of all time. I did a video on my channel a little while back about the top 20 Spider-Man covers of all time, and this was number 2. Number 1 was Amazing Spider-Man 300. But falling into number 2 of the top Spider-Man covers, this book, this cover, it's amazing. It's another one of those Bronze Age books that are almost in a league of their own with the Hulk 181. Not quite to that level. Obviously, Punisher is extremely popular, but not on that Wolverine level. But for me, again, being a Spider-Man fan and wanting to really finish off my Spider-Man run, this is a book that I need to get my hands on. It was actually on my 2020 want list, and I really, really hope that this book can be attainable in the near future for me. It's a book that I felt is attainable. Like, I didn't go with something that I didn't think I could ever get my hands on. This is one that's probably the hardest out there that I could attain, but still in reach, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, but it is one of those too that will only grow.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I feel like there are plans for Punisher in the MCU, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the introduction of Frank Castle in the Netflix shows was successful, and I think he's going to come back and play him again. I hope it's within the MCU proper in terms of like either Disney Plus. I can't imagine a Punisher series on Disney Plus, but maybe some form of that in the films. We can only hope. Now, as for my book, it's really nothing. It's not one that's like, oh wow, that's interesting. But it's something that's special to me. If you watched this last week where we talked about my first comic, mine was a Spider-Man issue, a special giveaway issue from all that my parents gave me, and I still have to this day. And Spider-Man has always, like, from as long as I can remember, probably back to the age of 3, Spider-Man has always been big in my life, and that's something I'll never digress from. And it's going to be Amazing Fantasy 15 for me. I mean, this is a book I would love to have. This is my comic book grail. Any form, any version, any grade of this, I would love to have this book. I don't know the reality of that right now. It's quite expensive, but I'm hoping one day I'll be able to make that happen. Put it on my mantle here. I know my daughter is a huge fan of Spider-Man. She's 4 now, and it just touches my heart, warms my heart, and it's definitely something that I would like to bring to the fold. But speaking of bringing to the fold, we're going to fold and close up this segment right now. Thank you so much for participating in my comic Grail CBC. Please keep sending them in. We may do this feature again. It definitely was fun for us.